Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welker. You are listening to episode 281 of the podcast. Unless you're joining live on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. If you want to catch the show live, make sure you subscribe somewhere on one of those platforms. Turn on your notifications. And those platforms will do the work of letting you know when the show goes live. Like right now. No UFC, no MMA, high-level MMA whatsoever this weekend. So we're just looking forward to UFC 273, Jacksonville, Florida, on today's Saturday, April 2nd, for anybody keeping track. Before we get into any of that, something I've been looking forward to say for about 6 months now. And not only do we have him back, but we have him in studio, in person, in flesh. Jeff, the animal Wilson. Jeff, you have no idea how much I've missed saying that every week. How you doing, my friend?
Bill, I've missed hearing you say that. I've missed being on the show. It's been a rough couple of months, but I figured I'm not gonna let anything stop me from doing what I enjoy, Bill. And what I enjoy is talking about UFC and the cuisine with you, Bill.
Big fan of the couche. Yeah, so you're here in Florida for a few days. You had a buddy getting married in Orlando, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump away, as everybody knows, because they hear about my escapades in Disney World every other fucking weekend. So you flew into Tampa, hung out here, drove to Orlando for the wedding, drove back here. We've been hanging out. I got you in the gym 3 days while you were here. MJM Muay Thai.
Thanks to Coach Matt for having me. But yeah, dude, it's been a blast. You know, I've been pretty lazy with my training. I got no excuses. You know, I let life get in the way. But dude, it was nice to come out here, take my mind off everything, because Bill, nothing takes your mind off of the problems of life like avoiding getting punched in the face.
That's true. You can't think about much else when somebody's trying to punch you in the face, which is kind of the beauty of it. I see a bunch of people joining the show because nobody's watching UFC tonight, so they might as well be hanging out with us, two knuckleheads, while we talk about some UFC. We got my buddy Ryan Cook from Cook's Auto World. You guys want some good tips for upkeeping your vehicle? Make sure you go follow his YouTube and Instagram channels there. If you want to learn how to change brake pads and whatever else he's doing on there. We got Mark, of course, all the way on the other side of the world. It doesn't matter what time of day. Doesn't matter what time of day the show is or what day the show is. Mark is here. He was here at like 4 a.m. last week tuning in for the show. So all of the rest of you are lazy listeners and viewers in comparison to Mark, because he wakes up to those notifications and joins the show live. Yeah, so we got some good training in, man. You even got some Muay Thai sparring in today. I mean, you were mostly boxing, but you got some pad work. You did some jiu-jitsu. How you feeling, man? Because you've been away from the gym for a little bit.
Dude, the first day just doing jiu-jitsu was probably the hardest one. You know, every day was pretty hard and definitely left me out of breath. But dude, it's really fun hitting pads and stuff, and you know, hearing the smack of your shin against it. You know, and I was trying to work more on my kicks today on the bag before we even started sparring, and my shins feel nice and tingly, Bill. And I will say this: shout out to Coach Dave. He checked one of my kicks, and this was yesterday, and all I did was like touch his shin, but I felt it, dude. I was like, I could totally see this. Somebody breaking their leg doing this the wrong way, or like someone checking a kick the correct way. Not a fun place to be, man.
It's so painful. I think people who don't train like really don't understand like how much your shins need to be conditioned and how much it could fucking hurt anyway. And you've been training combat sports a long time, just not like a whole lot of striking. So you probably got like a more condensed experience with striking in the past few days than you have like with your whole experience in combat sports, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I did a couple of like boxing classes, but it was, really basic stuff, just jab, cross, hook, which is like my go-to. But yeah, I felt like I was really able to get a little bit more in depth this weekend at MJM, and just like improving a little bit the form of my kicks, like just those little adjustments. I feel like I've gained like months of knowledge in just a couple of days. So shout out to MJM again. Thank you guys for having me.
Oh yeah, they got some good coaches too. I hear that clinch coach is a swell fella.
Yeah, Bill. Speaking of, dude, you hit me with a nice body shot today. Dude, the weird part was, Bill, it got me slightly aroused.
The weirder part is me too. Yeah, I had to stick you with one good one, Jeff, because you left me with some schmuck named Art Vandelay to do the podcast with, and nice guy, architect. I think he has a lobster roll food truck or some shit because he calls himself the main ingredient. But
yeah, who the fuck is that guy?
Nothing compares to the animal. Our favorite troll, Bruce Bobtrotter, is here. You guys should fight. I feel like the fat boy would knock your ass out, Bill. Bill, you look like you have a weak chin, Bill. Bruce, you really want me to know that you're talking to me because you used my name twice in one sentence, which is a little weird and a little intimidating. I think I'm afraid to ever meet you. And I can't say I've ever been knocked out. I don't know how good my chin is, but I can tell you that I did get my bell rung pretty bad today in sparring. And I came home to tell the wife about it, expecting some sympathy. I'm like, oh, I took a good one in sparring this morning. I got rocked a little bit. And she's like, good. She's like, somebody needs to humble you. So apparently I'm a cocky son of a bitch, Jeff, and I had it coming to me. I mean, she thinks I'm always coming home like telling war stories like I'm the baddest man on the planet. But I think if I'm tooting my own horn within the confines of my own house to someone who I hope respects me as a person, I don't find that as cocky. It's not like I walk around even on the show here. I'm not talking about like great rounds of sparring or like how amazing I am at MMA. Like, if anything, it's the opposite. Like, I have a lot of experience, but I wouldn't call myself great. But apparently the wife thinks so. So since women are always right, we're going to say she was right. I'm a cocky son of a bitch. I deserve to get my bell rung today. And, hopefully I can get through the show without any cobwebs getting in the way. But it was a good time, and I'm glad to have you here visiting. Glad to have you in the gym, and
shout out to Keyboard Warriors MMA.
Yeah, my brother Eddie Law tuning in for the show. Everybody's jumping on tonight because there's no MMA to watch. I hope everybody's having a drink out there. Let us know in the comments what everybody's sipping on. Myself, I had to break out some good stuff for the animal being here. I'm drinking some Remus Repeal Reserve. Series 5. So basically this is a blend that comes out every year from the George Remus Distilling Company. And every year is different. It's always 100 proof, I believe. And they blend just bourbons of different ages and different percentages of rye in the mash bill. And this one has, like I've talked about on the show before, this one has like kind of a blueberry waffle flavor to it, Jeff. I think you would enjoy it if you were partaking. So there's that, and let us know what you guys are drinking out there. Let's see, any other nuts and bolts thing? We've just been kind of in solidarity with Chris Rock. We've been watching some old Chris Rock stand-up specials since he got the piss slapped out of him at the Oscars. I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing about that by now, but I don't know. You got a quick take on that?
No, I don't think it did anything for Will's public image, man. I think Jada Pinkett Smith just I don't know. I'll be honest with you, Bill. I don't care about celebrities. I mean, they breathe the same air we do.
Yeah, I don't give two shits. my thing is that, yeah, Mark says that Will has anger issues. I think that's clear. I think he's got like some psychological trauma, and it's probably from Jada. I don't know anything about these people, but that's my assessment. My frustration with it is I don't want people to think it's okay to get up and slap a comedian, because it's hard enough to be a comedian these days.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, way back in the day, I did some stand-up comedy when I was in college, and I had a lot of fun with it. And it was a totally different time, because you could say pretty much whatever you want. Like the stuff in my act back then, luckily, is not videotaped anywhere, because the stuff that I said then would definitely get me canceled. Whatever canceled is today.
Yeah, you can run for public office with those comments.
Yeah. I don't think I could run for public office anyway if they find this podcast. But just the fact that maybe other people would think they can get away with that, and comedians are already so restricted with what they can and can't say, and taboo subjects, and the great George Carlin said, like, if you set up something with enough innocence, you should be able to joke about anything. And his example, I don't know if you've ever heard this, Jeff. His example was, they say you can't joke about rape, and he's like, well, think about Elmer Fudd getting raped by Porky Pig. And that was his example. It was like a little twist on it. But, I don't think rape is a joking matter, but I think, like, topics should be open for a game. And that's my take on it. So what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like comedians have to walk such a fine line these days. And Bill, I'm maybe it's because I'm getting old, but I feel like everybody's all sensitive and gets offended by everything. But I think that the main lesson to be learned from this whole issue with Will Smith and Chris Rock is that marriage is truly horrifying.
That's a good point. And Mark makes another good point. In fairness to Will, I'd have issues too. My wife slept around. Yeah, what was funny about it is, like, he's laughing at the joke, and then he sees her reaction, and then he gets up. He's walking up to Chris Rock, acting like he's all hard. But meanwhile, the only things that are hard are all the men that have been in his wife.
Indeed.
Oh, man. So there's
why didn't he smack any of them?
Yeah, and the other issue I have with it too is he slapped a guy who's 5'8" and like 150 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah, dude.
When Will Smith is a big dude, like, he played Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, Chris Rock basically built like an 8th grader.
And our friend Bruce left a hilarious comment in here that I'm not going to put on the screen. But if you guys are interested in what Bruce said, go through and read the YouTube comments.
Oh, man. Bruce, I wish we could post this. I think that's been my favorite comment that you've posted.
And he said he doubts too many dudes are fucking Jada because she's not that hot. Yeah, but the thing about it is, like, when it's like your son's friends, like, you're always going to look hotter to them. So she's probably going to be able to bang as many of them as she wants, because that's what it was, right? She was sleeping around with one of Jaden's friends, who's like a rapper or some, I don't know, reality TV star. I don't even know what the fuck he is, but
yeah, I'll be honest with you, Bill, I can't tell you.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I know about the situation is all the hilarious memes that came out of the Will Smith crying face when he went on her, like, wannabe Oprah talk show or whatever it was. So there's that. But the upside to it, Jeff, is that you and I got to go back and rewatch some classic Chris Rock stand-up comedy on HBO. Bigger and Blacker, Never Scared. And it's stuff that, like, still holds up today. Like, a lot of it was topical for the time. Like, he talks about, the Bill Clinton scandal, and, like, there were a few references I don't even remember from, like, the late 90s, but a lot of, like, the messages still stand up. Like, he's an all-time great comedian. So it sucks that this had to happen to him. But I promised, like, I wouldn't get too far into this, but then it's the kind of thing, like, you start talking about it and it kind of snowballs.
Yeah.
So let's make a conscious effort and and get away from the slap. And last thing I'll say about it, I wouldn't have even known about the movie that Will Smith won the Oscar for if it wasn't for this incident. Because then come to find out he won the Oscar. Well, what did he win it for? King Richard. Well, what is that? It's about the Williams sisters' dad. Never would have known that movie was a thing. Bruce is on fire tonight, and he's ripping into me.
Yeah.
Once I said that I used to do stand-up comedy, I guess I'm fair game to get ripped into. I'll just tell you guys what he said. He said, "Bigger and blacker is my top request when I'm having sex." Well, I kind of wish you hadn't put that out there, Bruce. Like, some things are just better left to the bedroom. But I'm not going to say you're right, and I'm not going to say you're wrong. Let's talk about some MMA, because we're just getting way off track here, and I haven't even had a lot to drink yet. All right, we covered all the bases, right? Chris Rock training at MJM. You had some good grouper while you were down here. Shout out to Carver's Fish House in Dunedin, Florida. One of the best spots for grouper tacos in the area.
Yeah, the grouper tacos were awesome. The ice cream was really good too. Dude, and those conch fritters, oh man, I'm gonna dream about those.
While you're unconscious?
That would took me a sec. That body shot rattled my brain, dude. So it took me a sec to get that one.
I had to give you one, Jeff. I had to get you back for skipping out on the show for so long. I had to take out my frustration of having to talk to Art Vandelay.
Fair enough.
All right, so UFC 273, Jacksonville, Florida, headlined by Alexander Volkanovski and a Korean zombie, Chan Sung Jung, for the featherweight title. Chan Sung Jung's second shot at this title. First one, he had that unfortunate shoulder injury when he fought Jose Aldo in what was a great fight up to that point. Volkanovski defending the title, coming off of his defense against Brian Ortega, which was a great fight.
Yeah.
Which, Ortega had his moments in that fight, but it was fairly one-sided. Like, those moments, I feel like, didn't win him the fight. He might have taken a round or two, if I remember correctly. Bruce says, you guys know Art Vandelay is from Seinfeld, right?
What the hell is Seinfeld, Bill?
Never heard of it. Anyway, this is a fun fight. It's not like I'm not crazy hyped for it, but as like a pay-per-view main event, like, it just doesn't give me that. It doesn't give me that vibe. But I'm interested. I want to see how it plays out. The featherweight division took a big blow because of the controversy with the Max Holloway decisions against Volkanovski. But I want to get interested again. Make me interested, Jeff. What's going on here? What do we got?
Bill, I think I gotta agree with you. I feel like this card is awesome. I just don't feel like Volkanovski and Korean Zombie can carry the main event spot. But dude, my heart says that I want Korean Zombie to win, but my head says that he might not have the skill set to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see him beating Volkanovski anywhere, man. I mean, Volkanovski's got those running back legs. His leg kicks are nasty. I feel like that's really what won him the fight against Holloway, especially the first one. Although, that me personally, I don't think he won the fight, but I could see the judges being swayed by that. We've seen that he can grapple. I mean, he was able to get out of some nasty spots with Brian Ortega. And I feel like Korean Zombie, it doesn't have that level of grappling to take him into the deep water like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just, Volkanovski's Muay Thai is pretty good too. So I don't see any area in this fight where Korean Zombie can best Volkanovski, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page. Like, I was telling you earlier, we were watching the countdown show. Like, if Brian Ortega couldn't submit Volkanovski when he had submissions locked in, like, he had him in that guillotine.
Yeah.
Like, that was in. And he just has no quit in him. Like he was able to get out of it. I don't see Korean Zombie getting him in anything weird like a twister, especially because that's harder to get on guys who are shorter and stockier. I know this from experience because guys have tried to put me in twisters many times, guys who are very good at them. And it's just, it's kind of easy to avoid. And the other thing about it is Volkanovski, probably his biggest strength is his game planning and his fight IQ. He's able to adjust in there and he's able to stick to his game plan. Like he knows what he has to do to beat his specific opponent. And that's probably his biggest strength. On the other side of the coin, Korean Zombie just wins fights that he's not supposed to win.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of been his thing. Like he came into the WEC and nobody really knew who he was. And he had that epic fight with Leonard Garcia. And then his career has been a story of him just like beating guys when he kind of wasn't supposed to. You know, he lost to Leonard Garcia and then he comes back and submits him when they fight in the UFC. I'm kind of getting more interested now that we're talking through it. That's kind of why I like doing these, like only focusing on the breakdown shows, because it gets me more excited to watch the fights.
Yeah, for sure. And dude, I feel like, you hit the nail on the head, man. Korean Zombie just beats people that nobody feels he can beat. I mean, one of his last wins was against Frankie Edgar. You know, Frankie Edgar, who's really developed his striking and added to his game, and Korean Zombie put him down. I mean, Edgar's a tough dude. So I was really impressed with that when we were just watching UFC Countdown. And I love the Countdown episodes, man. They do such a good job of going into each other's training camps. And as much as I love Korean Zombie Bill, I want him to win this fight, but I just don't see it happening, man. And something that you mentioned was Volkanovski's game planning, his fight IQ, which it's an asset. You know, it's part of what makes him a complete fighter, right? And I feel like not enough people give him credit for that. I mean, until you brought it up, I didn't give him credit for that. You know, it almost reminds you of how GSP went about game planning against his opponents, because that was his biggest thing. You know, GSP was well-rounded, but he was so good at game planning and taking away the strengths and the weapons that his opponents could use to win the fight and just neutralizing them.
For sure. Shout out to my boy Joey Fernandez, MMA fighter, one of my training partners from back in the day. If you guys need your house painted in the Tampa Bay area, hit up my boy Joey. Good to see you hanging out, brother. And here's a question from Mark Fellows. My wife booked our flight during UFC 273. I'll be in the air and miss the fight. Should I divorce her?
It's a tough one, Bill.
I'm going to leave it to you guys in the comments. I'm going to answer with a resounding no, Mark. I mean, you kind of made a decision to let her take the reins and book the flight. Although I understand your boy Volkanovski's fighting, and I know you stand by your countrymen, you're loyal as hell. I'm going to say maybe not divorce, but maybe fart in her pillowcase or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna Mark, me personally, I would let this one. I'm trying to see it from the other side too, just because you're on the other side of the world. There's like 12 time zones between us, so I think, given the parameters, I think we could let this one slide.
Yeah. She probably did it on purpose. She's like, you're always tuning into those MMA on the Rocks guys. They're waking me up at 4:00 in the morning. I have to listen to Bill Welker while I'm trying to sleep. I got work in the morning. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to book this flight. She probably did it on purpose. Like, what's the start time, UFC 273? You shouldn't have woken her up by listening to our show last week, Mark, as much as I appreciate it. All right, so I'm not going to ask you for a pick, Jeff, even though you already kind of gave one by saying, you don't see how Korean Zombie is going to win. But I am going to have sort of a prediction question for you after we go over the top 3 fights on the card. So let's go to the co-main event, which is a long-awaited rematch between Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan. So Aljamain Sterling, the reigning bantamweight champion, Petr Yan, the reigning interim bantamweight champion. You guys all remember what happened. For argument's sake, if you don't, these two fought 18 months ago?
Yeah, something like that. It was quite a while ago.
Aljamain Sterling was doing pretty well in the beginning of the fight, seemed to gas out, and then he was getting pieced up. He got hit with an illegal knee, could not continue, and was ruled the winner and given the championship belt. First time it ever happened in UFC history. Since then, it's been a series of cringeworthy moments from both parties, from Aljamain, touting the belt and, doing shots with the belt on and taking pictures and saying I'm the champ and kind of trying to lean into the heel role, but then pulling back because he's too nice of a guy. And it just became a cringy mess. And then whoever is running Petr Yan's Twitter account is equally as cringy, in my opinion. Like all the stuff, just the awkward trash talk, which, it has his face on the Twitter account, but he doesn't speak English. Somebody's doing it for him. I don't even know if he's aware, what's being said in his name. It's his management or whoever's doing that. But the good thing is they're going to get in there and settle it. Since they met, Petr Yan had a great fight with Corey Sandhagen for the interim title. So now they're going to duke it out for the undisputed title. How are you feeling going into this one?
Well, I'm excited, man. We were watching the UFC countdown before. Turns out that in this interlude, Aljo has gotten some neck surgery because he was having some neck issues, an old injury from his wrestling days in the NCAA. And
Division III All-American, I might add.
Yeah, I mean, Bill, you probably know more than I do, but, injuries like that just, your neck, it's connected to your spine and runs down your body and stuff. That's a huge factor, and I feel like this could be a game-changing thing that Aljo has taken care of. The first fight really was not going Aljo's way. We could say he was getting pieced up by Petr Yan, but I mean, the circumstances are a little bit different now. Aljo, like you said, playing into that heel role might give him some false confidence, which sometimes that's all you need. And I'm excited for this one, man. Everything is against Aljo, but I feel like we could see a different Aljamain Sterling against Petr Yan, who Petr Yan has been on such a tear in the bantamweight division. It's a shame that I got just halted with that knee, but I think the ref made the right decision because he said to him, "Opponent is grounded," and then the knee came out. So
yeah. The whole thing was just an unfortunate mess. To go back to your point about wrestling, wrestling takes a toll on the body. I mean, I never wrestled at the NCAA level. I only wrestled club in college, but I don't know if that was better or worse because we were just a bunch of guys in a padded room, throwing each other around with no real goals. So there was there was a coach, but we were just kind of beating the piss out of each other in there. But yeah, I started wrestling when I was 11, I think. So that's 26 years doing this. I was 6 feet tall when I started wrestling, Jeff, but there's so much compression on the spine that I've become a very sturdy 5'5.5" or so. But yeah, neck issues, back issues, knee issues, hip issues. They're all going to be there forever for anyone who's ever done any degree of wrestling. But it's such a great sport. It's so much fun. I still enjoy just picking people up and putting them down.
It's a lot of fun.
Not so gently sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting fight, because you've had Petr Yan just getting angrier and angrier, and Aljamain Sterling with a lot of negative attention. There's a lot of pressure on him because everybody is expecting Petr Yan to just blast him out of the water. And if Aljamain Sterling loses, this will be the last time he sees a title shot, in my opinion. because of all the drama and everything. And they were already not a fan of giving him a title shot in the first place because I don't know what happened, but there was some kind of issue between him and the organization. And now, like, dragging this whole thing out and the way it's all played out and holding up the division, et cetera, et cetera. If he were to lose, I feel like he's not going to make it back to the title shot. I feel like they're going to put the screws to him.
Yeah, and that could be very possible, especially considering the way that the last fight went. It was not going his way at all. I think it was like the second or third round that the knee came in, and nothing in what we saw led us to believe that the next couple rounds would be any different.
Yeah, it wasn't looking good, but he was. Some people say he won the first two. I think he definitely won the first. The second round was when it started to go downhill for him. We don't know. They're going to have to get in there and settle it. And this one's going to be in front of a crowd. Whereas, we saw in the countdown show, the last one, Aljamain thought it was awkward that it wasn't, it was just in the apex and there was no audience. He said it felt like fighting in a back alley. So, we're just going to have to see. Personally, I'll be glad if we just have a fucking conclusion to this. That's all I want out of this. I just want it to be done. I want the division to move on because it's a fun division. You got Dominic Cruz still lurking around. TJ Dillashaw is there somewhere. Corey Sandhagen, even though coming off the loss against Petr Yan, it was a great fight. So you still got him in there. You got Munoz. You got a lot of talent in this division. You got Merab Dvalishvili lurking in the shadows, and nobody wants to fucking fight that guy. Yeah. So I think it's fun. And who else do we got? We got Ricky Simone. This is a fun division that's just kind of been on halt for the past year and a half or however long it's been. I don't know, 15, 18 months. Who knows? Nobody knows the answer. It's not like it's readily available on the internet or anything. We're just going to have to go on with our lives not knowing. Now, here's the fight you're most excited for, Jeff. Gilbert Burns and Khamzat Chimaev. This is the test, man. This is where we're going to find out if Khamzat is the real deal because we know Gilbert Burns is. He was competitive with the champ, Kamaru Usman, until he got knocked out. He was looking good in there, and he's looked good against everybody, against Wonder Boy, Tyron Woodley. He put together a streak since moving up to welterweight, and he's looked great, and he's such a game competitor. But Chimaev just has been bulldozing through people in two divisions. He's a big dude. We just saw on the countdown show him grappling with Gustafsson. They looked almost the same size. Yeah. That's fucking terrifying. But here's Gilbert Burns, who's not afraid of anybody. I'm sure he grapples like heavyweights all the time in the gym and probably manhandles them on the ground. But give me your take.
Yeah, dude. Chimaev coming off a very impressive win over Gerald Meerschaert where he knocked him out with a mean right cross. But, dude, Gilbert Burns has power in his hands, like you said, really good grappler, multiple-time world champion in jiu-jitsu. His wrestling is not bad either. We've seen him pretty ably be able to take people down. Dude, this is going to be a real test for Chimaev, man. Mm-hmm. We're going to see if Chimaev is for real. Gilbert Burns is definitely going to take him into some deep water, man. And Gilbert Burns, he's game for anything, dude. He was taking, grappling fights in between his MMA fights. It's going to take something special to beat him for sure.
As I'm thinking about this, and as we're talking about it now, and I'm kind of envisioning how the fight goes, I think Gilbert Burns has an advantage on the ground. But I don't think it goes to the ground unless Chimaev wants it there. We saw him throw Jack Hermanson around like a rag doll in a wrestling match. Granted, Jack Hermanson's not, a folk style wrestler, but he's still a big dude. And he got tech falled, which for those who don't follow wrestling, basically a tech fall is when somebody scores so many points, the match is stopped because there's no chance for the other person to catch up. So I don't know if the fight goes to the ground unless Chimaev wants it there. And Gilbert Burns has power, but Chimaev has been hit, twice in all of his 4 UFC fights? Some ridiculous stat like that. And he's a lot longer than Gilbert Burns. He knows how to control the distance. This is going to be a tough one. Like, stylistically, it's not a good matchup for Gilbert. But Gilbert has that X factor of, like, wanting to win and being a competitor. Like you said, he's competing in the UFC. He's competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments. He's competing in, Abu Dhabi and whatever else. Like, if there's an arm wrestling competition, I'm sure Gilbert Burns is signing up and putting his name. Fucking karaoke contest. Gilbert Burns is putting his name on the list. He's going to sing, like, You're My Cherry Pie by Warrant, or She's My Cherry Pie. I don't know what he would pick. But my point is, he would be in the competition, Jeff, and somehow, even with his Portuguese accent, would find a way to sing his way to the top of that karaoke contest. Like, the guy's just a gamer. And that's what I love about him. I've always been a fan of Gilbert Burns for that reason.
Yeah, dude. And to add on to what you were saying, going back to his run in the welterweight division, man, he took out a murderer's row of welterweights. Like you said, Wonder Boy, Tyron Woodley, probably a couple of other guys at the top that I can't remember off the top of my head. But, dude, on his way to Tyron Woodley, I'd say he almost cleaned out the division.
Yeah, so before Tyron Woodley,
on his way to Usman.
It was Damian Maia, Gunnar Nelson, Alexei Konchenko, Mike Davis, Olivier Aubin-Mercier. Then he did have a loss to Dan Hooker, but that was at lightweight, which I feel like welterweight suits him better.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the TKO loss to Usman in the 3rd round. But then, he bounced back from that and had the win over Wonder Boy. An impressive run and an impressive career. And like Gilbert said in the Countdown show, he was 10-0 at one point in the UFC and felt like he was unbeatable until he ran into somebody with more experience. So here's my question for you, Jeff, and it's not so much a prediction, but out of these top 3 fights on the card, UFC 273, Gilbert Burns versus Khamzat Chimaev, Aljamain Sterling versus Petr Yan, Alexander Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie. 3 of these fighters are big underdogs. Korean Zombie, Aljamain Sterling, and Gilbert Burns are the 3 biggest underdogs, I believe, on the whole card. Out of those 3 underdogs, who has the best chance for an upset?
I'm going to have to go with Gilbert Burns on that one. I feel like, yes, he's an underdog, but at the same time, his body of work speaks for itself, man. And, he's good everywhere. So Chimaev, I feel like he does have the advantage on the feet. And to go with what you were saying before, I think if the fight goes to the ground, it's going to be at Chimaev's will. But once it gets there, I think Burns is a different animal. And Burns also has he has power in his hands too. So listen, he could land a good shot, and be able to put Chimaev down. He's definitely got a puncher's chance. But I don't see Aljo or Korean Zombie getting the upsets. But Burns, I think, definitely could get the upset against Chimaev. And I don't know, man. To say to have the betting odds, have him as the underdog, I don't know, man. I mean, Chimaev, he's been impressive, but we've seen impressive fighters lose in impressive fashion before.
It's interesting because I was like really struggling with this question, and I didn't prep you for it, but you gave an answer immediately. So like you already had in your mind that you think Burns is going to come through with the upset. For all my gambling folks out there, can anybody tell me what the odds are on a parlay betting Gilbert Burns, Aljamain Sterling, and Korean Zombie? I would imagine it'd have to be somewhere in the vicinity of plus 7,000. Like it's gotta be astronomical. Like it's gotta be huge. Like if you bet $1 on that, you're gonna walk away a rich man. Any of my gambling friends out there who are, savvy with the gambling sites and the odds, if you could leave in the comments what those odds would be for a parlay on those 3 underdogs, I would be curious to hear that. and might even throw $10 on it. I mean,
yeah, I think if you put 5 down and all 3 of them won, you'd make out pretty handily.
and I'm interested to hear from all of you as well. So wherever you're listening or viewing the podcast, let me know in the comments, who do you think out of those 3 underdogs, Korean Zombie, Aljamain Sterling, Gilbert Burns, has the best chance of getting the upset? We've already got one answer from Coach Bill Eastlick. He says the upset is Burns. So he agrees with you. So we got 2 votes for Gilbert Burns getting the upset out of the 3 biggest underdogs on the card. I want to hear from everybody listening to the show. So, if you want to send me a DM, if you don't like commenting on things, but again, comments help boost the show. So whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, and if you're on iTunes or wherever, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, tag me on social media at MMA on the Rocks. And I really want to hear everybody's opinion on this. I'm genuinely curious. Let's get through the rest of this card here, Jeff, which I'm excited about. We got Mackenzie Dern and Tecia Torres. This is a fun fight.
Yeah, for sure. Tecia Torres, scrappy, pretty solid everywhere. Mackenzie Dern, we already know the game plan for her. Throw a couple of punches and then take her down and grapple.
Mm-hmm.
But Tecia Torres, very well-rounded, comes from a good camp. So this is going to be, and she's just a tough chick, man. This is going to be a really good fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mackenzie Dern, to her credit, has gotten better at making weight since becoming a mother, which, I don't know, like having kids like changes you. So it can change your mindset. It can change your level of discipline. It can change like a lot of things. Like maybe since becoming a mother, she's become more of a person of habit who like gets into a routine and is able to stick to it. So then maybe she's able to get the weight off quicker. But, she struggled with that quite a bit at first, but super legit on the ground. Obviously, her striking is good enough to get her by given her skill set on the ground. I mean, I think she's still the only female to finish a UFC fight with a leg lock. So she's got tools. And then there are fighters who say, like, I'm just not going to go to the ground with her. And then where do they end up? On the fucking ground with her. Because when you're in there and, you spent your whole training camp grappling, you're like, I can fucking grapple until a world champion gets a hold of your limbs or your neck or anything in between those things. And then you're like, oh, this is a bad idea. So what do you think? Do you think Tecia Torres plays it smart, or do you think she falls into the game plan of Mackenzie Dern?
That's tough, man, because Tecia Torres, sometimes she can kind of get wrapped up in the moment. But if she plays it smart, I think she can beat Dern in a decision. But like you said, she has to follow the game plan and do whatever possible to not go to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I got a good feeling about this one. Just because Torres, she has a very good camp. And like you said, Mackenzie Dern, it's different getting in there with a world champ at anything, right? So yeah, this is going to be a fun fight, man.
It is. And, Tecia Torres is a very complete fighter. I would say a much more complete fighter than Mackenzie Dern. But Mackenzie Dern has that, that wild card, which is her jiu-jitsu. Going through the rest of the card, there is a main card slot available. I don't know who it's been filled with, if yet. But as we go over the rest of this, I want you to think about who you would put in there, because obviously Kelvin Gastelum's opponent had to pull out, so he was replaced with Duplessis.
I believe it's pronounced Duplessis.
Yeah, that. And then Gastelum had to pull out. So there is a main card spot potentially still available unless it's been filled. So I have an idea who I would put into that spot, but I'm curious to hear your opinion, Jeff. Next, we got the undefeated Ian Gary against Darian Weeks. I'm not too familiar with either of these gentlemen, but if you have anything on it. All right. Jairzinho Rosenstrike and Marcin Tybura. I think this is going to be a fun fight.
Oh, this is going to be fireworks, dude. Both of them hit with a lot of power. And Marcin Tybura, he can just be calm under pressure, man. Excuse me. Definitely going to be a fun one to watch. And, anytime heavyweights fight, it's always a good time.
Yeah. I mean, Have we ever really seen Rosenstrike's grappling tested? I can't really recall a time. Because he fought Cyril Gahn, and Gahn has some grappling, but he didn't grapple in that fight. He just kind of outpointed him.
Yeah.
Rosenstrike has that one punch power that could end a fight at any moment, but Tabora is a hard guy to put away. I love this fight. I'm excited for that one. Then we got Aspen Ladd and Raquel Pennington. Aspen Ladd is someone who came up with so much hype, but then there was just, so much disappointment. There was the one fight with like the flash knockout that ended in like 11 seconds or whatever it was. And then there was a couple of times where she almost passed out on the scale, and she got some negative press from that. But this is someone who is extremely talented and, just kind of hasn't lived up to the expectations that were set for her. And she's getting in there with Raquel Pennington, who, is hot and cold, for being honest.
Yeah, for sure. But Bill, Raquel Pennington, partners with Tecia Torres there, who's also on the card. And I believe they have a baby. And like you said, being a parent changes you. And, I think Raquel Pennington's record, she's 13-8. But I feel like that doesn't tell the full story, man, because Pennington, she's a tough fighter. She is, she's been in some wars, man. The losses, do you mind just pulling up her
Not at all.
record really fast? But, she's lost to, I remember she got a title shot. I believe she lost to Amanda Nunes.
We should use this internet thing a little more often. Like, we have so much information available at our fingertips.
Yeah, I mean, look at her last couple of losses. So she's got 3 straight wins, which is awesome. She's, been a little more hot than cold lately. But her last couple of losses were Holly Holm, Jermaine Durandamy, Amanda Nunes. Those are all
champions.
Yeah.
And all 3 of them have fought at the weight class above. Yeah. I mean, I retract my hot and cold statement. Like, she's looked good against everyone who hasn't fought at 145 as of late. Win over Misha Tate. Win over Betch Correa.
Yeah, and those are all really tough fighters, man. You can never count Raquel Pennington out, man. And I don't know, with Aspen Ladd, I don't know, man. I think Pennington, with the fight experience and, just the mental toughness that she has shown in her last couple of fights, I don't know, dude. I think if the UFC is trying to keep Aspen Ladd around and maybe build up her record a little bit, I don't think Raquel Pennington is the person you put across from her.
Interesting. I just want to take a quick look at Aspen Ladd's last couple of outings. So she lost her last fight to Norma Dumont, unanimous decision. I don't even recall that fight, to be honest. Then she TKO'd Yana Kunitskaya, and then she had that flash knockout against Jermaine Durandamy, which was 16 seconds into the first round. Man, I was kind of heavily favoring Aspen Ladd before we kind of talked this out and looked at Raquel Pennington's record, but now, man, it's kind of a coin toss for me. And it kind of depends, like, how rough is the weight cut going to be for Aspen Ladd? That's kind of always a factor when she fights. We've seen the gruesome scenes of her just like fainting on the scale. Hopefully we don't see anything like that. We got Mickey Gall taking on Mike Malott. I'm not too familiar with Mike. It's been a while since we've seen Mickey Gall. He's got himself into some hot water because he went on some podcast talking about how he would have beaten the shit out of Bruce Lee, which is like probably definitely true, but like not really necessary to talk about somebody who's not alive and how you would have beaten him up. Like, it's just not a good look. Let's see. So this guy, Mike Malott.
Bill, I don't know a lot about him.
I only know him a little myself. He's 7-1-1. His only loss came to Hakeem Dawodu outside of the UFC, and that was back in 2014. It seems like he's not very active. He fights like every few years. So his first loss was in 2014. Then he went to a draw in 2015. Then he had 3 wins in a row, but they came in 2017, 2020, 2021. So I don't know.
They came within like 4 years of each other.
But most of his wins are finishes and submissions. And Mickey Gall, we know, I mean, he's probably a black belt by now under Jim Miller, right?
Isn't he under Almeida?
Somebody legit. He's got good jiu-jitsu.
Oh,
but I do think he has moved out of New Jersey and he's in a different camp now. Oh, Miller Brothers MMA.
Oh, I stand corrected.
So I believe he's a black belt now because I remember talking about him a few years ago as a brown belt under Jim Miller, unless Jim Miller's really stingy with his black belts. All right, Jeff, my sleeper pick for this card.
This is a good one.
Vince Pichel and Mark O. Madsen. This fight, I might be more excited for this fight than anything on the whole card. I mean, Burns and Chimaev is up there, but this is great matchmaking. Like, Vince Pichel is just battle-tested, tough as shit. Marco Madsen, Olympic silver medalist in wrestling, undefeated, even though his last fight, I know, was a little bit controversial in the decision. I believe it was against Clay Guida. Yeah.
Debatable, to say the least.
Yeah, it definitely debatable, but this guy is just such a dominant wrestler. I don't love that his nickname is the Olympian.
I thought that's what the O. I thought that was his middle name. Isn't that what the O stands for?
I have no idea. He's like, it could be some kind of weird Denmarkian thing. Is it Denmarkian? What is it?
I believe it's Danish, Bill.
I like Denmarkian.
Yeah, it does sound nicer.
The Danish is like what you eat for breakfast. That can't be right, Jeff.
I don't make the rules, Bill. I just enjoy them, along with Danishes.
What's your favorite kind of Danish?
Probably the cheese ones.
Yeah?
Yeah, but I gotta start staying away from those.
Yeah, I think I go raspberry. Raspberry Danish. I haven't had a Danish in years. I haven't had a carb in 7 years, Jeff. That's how I maintain this girlish figure. Jeff, I sweat so much sparring this morning, I almost saw abs. I was like, I got to get some beer in me. Stat.
Yeah, dude. I was drenched. It was awesome.
Okay. Coach Bill let us know that Mickey Gall is a BJJ black belt under David Adiv. Yeah. So I know he's definitely trained with the Miller brothers, and he was under them in their ranking system at some point. Then we got Alexei Olenek and Jared Vanderaa, heavyweight. It was initially supposed to be Olenek, and who was he supposed to be in there with? Somebody else with good grappling. Oh, it was supposed to be Latifi.
Oh, so, that's right. Yeah.
Alir Latifi had to pull out. I think it was like they were supposed to fight last week, and then Olenek pulled out because of a positive COVID test, I want to say. And now Latifi had to pull out for something. So now it's going to be Olenek and Jared Vanderaa. That's still a fun fight. I'm a big fan of Alexei Olenek just because I met him in person, and he was super nice to me. And his hand is like way big. Like he could palm my head like a basketball. Like his hands are – he's not a huge guy. Like he's fought at middleweight before. Like – he fought Chael Sonnen at middleweight.
Oh, wow.
But he's not huge. He just likes being a heavyweight. So
yeah, well, weight cut's tough when you're like 65.
I'll breeze over the rest here. Anthony Hernandez and Josh Friend, Pieta Rodriguez and Kay Hansen. Kay Hansen 7-5, probably known more for her OnlyFans account than the fact that she's in the UFC, because if you look at her social media, that's all she talks about. And then it's like, oh yeah, she's in the UFC. Julio Arce, for some reason, is the curtain jerker of this card against Daniel Gustavo Santos. Who did Julio Arce piss off to get this low on the bill? What's been going on with him? He's coming off of, all right, he got knocked out by Song Yadong.
That's a tough dude, though.
But he knocked out Andre Ewell before that, and then lost a close decision to Hakeem Dawodu. a win over Julian Erosa, and then a close decision loss to Shaman Moraes. Like, why is Julio Arce the opening fight?
Probably said something about somebody's sister.
He probably banged Jada Pinkett Smith. And then Will Smith like pulled his Oscar-winning strings and was like, bump that guy down. He banged my wife.
That'll do it.
He's not going to slap him, no.
Oh, absolutely not. Not if he knows what's good for him.
I guarantee you, if it's Julio Arce versus Will Smith, I know who I'm betting on for I'm not betting on the underdog. This is a great card, Jeff. I'm thoroughly excited for it. And you know what? I'm going to go against the grain here with these top 3 underdogs, Korean Zombie, Aljamain Sterling, and Gilbert Burns. I'm going to go Aljamain Sterling. Probably the last one that anybody's ever going to pick because, you know, he was losing that fight. It was not looking good. But maybe he's had a long time. He's recovered from that neck injury. He got the surgery that he needed. And he's in there. He's been in there with a guy. He's felt him. He's felt his power. He knows what his best weapons are. And he's willing to get back in there with him. So that says something. Like he could have like taken more time off until they stripped him. Or like, I'm going to change weight classes now. And it has nothing to do with Jan, but that's what I'm going to do. Like there are ways out. And he didn't take them. He wants to get back in there. And to me, that says he believes he can win. Because why is he going to get in there if he knows he can get his ass kicked? I believe the crowd will make a difference. I want to pick Gilbert Burns. And like probably my heart picks Gilbert Burns. And maybe my brain too. But I guess just to mix it up a little bit, to give a little bit of controversy.
Yeah, and that's what's so interesting about this Aljo Petr Yan rematch. See, if it had been a quick turnaround, I feel like we're having a different conversation. If it had been, you know, a couple of months after the disqualification, I feel like Aljo maybe gets mopped up. Like maybe it's the continuation of that first fight. But it's been like you said, probably about a year and a half. Aljo's had some time to, like you said, recover from the surgery, look at what didn't work against Petr Yan the first time. And I feel like that is more to his advantage because Petr Yan, he didn't do too many things wrong, you know, so there's nothing that he needs to go back and fix, really. Maybe he's added a few things, but Aljo has had time to come up with a new game plan with his team, which, by the way, he's got a great team with Ray Longo and, you know, I'm sure Matt Serra and Chris Weidman are in there as well. Aljo, I believe he is a black belt under
Matt Serra.
Yeah, under Matt Serra. Probably trained with well,
he's training out in Vegas now.
Okay.
He moved his camp out there. Yeah. So would you say then, after talking yourself through this, that Korean Zombie would be your last pick out of these 3 underdogs?
Yeah, I think so. Just because Korean Zombie is getting up there in years, and he's just not as active as he used to be. But man, it's tough, man. You know, wow, this is the UFC, Bill. This is why we love this, because anything could happen. I mean, I always think back to when TJ Dillashaw first fought. Who was it that he took the bantamweight belt off? Was it Dominic Cruz? No, it wasn't Dominic Cruz.
No. And I'm like,
I'm sorry. What's that Brazilian dude's name?
It's at the tip of my tongue too, and I can't think of it. I'm kind of embarrassed.
So am I, because he was,
I can see his face.
Yeah. But you know what I mean. When TJ first challenged for the bantamweight belt, he pieced up the champ at the time.
Whoever that guy was.
Was it Henao or something?
Henan
Barao, thank you.
It's kind of embarrassing that neither of us can come up with that.
Dude, listen, he's one of the guys who, you know, the USADA rules did not help at all. But yeah, TJ smoked him, dude. And like that's why I always think like anything can happen in this, because dude, nobody expected it. And it wasn't like a flash knockout, it wasn't a submission. He pieced him up for 5 rounds and he embarrassed him.
Yeah.
Like,
and Joey thinks that Korean Zombie and Burns could come up with the upset, but he thinks that Sterling would be a huge upset. And yeah, it would, but Aljamain Sterling comes from the camp of the biggest upset in UFC history. Matt Serra over GSP. So he's kind of got those vibes in his corner. Mark says he's expecting Zombie to have a good performance and finish in second place. Of course, sticking with his fellow countrymen. Yeah, I mean, you got anything else on UFC 273, Jeff? And before you answer that, I do want to hear from everybody else. Who out of the 3 underdogs are you putting your money on? Somebody puts a gun to your head and says you have to bet your life savings on one of these 3 underdogs in the top 3 fights. Korean Zombie, Aljamain Sterling, and Gilbert Burns. Who are you betting the house on? Let me know in the comments wherever you are watching or listening. And so any kind of culminating thoughts on this card, Jeff?
I'm more excited now that we talked about this, man. This card's going to be awesome. Top to bottom, we got some really exciting fights lined up.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And you and I can talk about it some more over, a little cigar action outside. It's nice and cool since it just rained all day today. Light up some nice quality stogies that came in the mail on Friday. If you guys stuck it out for the entire episode, I appreciate you more than anybody who cut out halfway through. And if you do love the show, you can grab some merchandise through our friends at Team Reaper. Reaper1.co is the website. You can use the promo code MMAROCKS10. That's MMAROCKS10. Save yourself 10% on your entire order, whether it's our merchandise or not. We do have T-shirts, hoodies, and tank tops available. I myself still don't have one of those sweatshirts. Oh, what did I say? T-shirts, hoodies. Yeah, hoodies. I don't have one of the hoodies myself because I live in Florida and I wear hoodies like 3 days out of the year. But I probably should have one of those for when I travel to colder states like New York, New Jersey, where you're from, Jeff. Jeff, it's been great having you back on the show. I feel like, and I think everybody listening feels the same way, that there's been a piece of the soul of the show that's just been missing without your presence. I mean, Art was okay. He had some decent takes for an architect, but
yeah, fuck that guy.
I know all the listeners and all the viewers are happy to have you back. Nobody's more happy to have you back than I am, though. Do you have any closing statements for everybody out there?
Yeah, dude, it's nice to be back on the show. We're going to try and make this a consistent thing, even if it is through video call. But, dude, yeah, like the show just helps keep me grounded, man. Helps me forget about all the nonsense going on, with everyday life. And hopefully we can do that for you guys, too, for the hour a week that you listen to us and our spiel.
Mark wants to know if we can make Panama hats, which reminds me, in that countdown video, we saw Khamzat Chimaev wearing that fishing hat while he's just jogging laps in the gym, and it made me think like Burns doesn't have a chance.
Yeah.
Like if this guy's in the gym wearing a fishing hat, like I just feel like that says something about him, that he just doesn't give a fuck about anything, and he's just like, I put fishing hat on, brother. I smash everyone in my fishing hat. I smash fish. I smash humans.
Dude, I feel like if he were to like grapple, the hat would never leave his head.
Yeah. He could barambolo somebody and then hat staying like facing the same way and everything.
Yep.
Just clung to his skull. All right, maybe we should make hats. I don't know.
I'm all for Panama hats.
Why not? Ryan, if you're listening, we need hats. Make us some hats. I'll message him tomorrow if I remember. That's all we got. We got some cigars to smoke, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for all the feedback. Thanks for even roasting me. Those of you like Bruce, I don't care. I find it funny. I got a thick skin. Maybe I cry about it in the shower, but probably not. I enjoy it. So bring it on. Until next time. Cheers, everybody. Goodbye.